All right, we're gonna have one public hearing here tonight, and then that will follow by the plan commission meeting right afterwards, which is our final plan commission meeting ever as a town. This is actually the final official meeting as the town of Lisbon. So when I open the public hearing, we'll hear from the applicant and our planner, and then we'll open up for public comments at that time, anyone on Zoom or in the audience. Once that is done and adjourned, we will then, like I said, go into the plan commission meeting. So at 6:30 PM, let's have a roll call, please, for the public hearing.
Chairman Osterman,
Here.
Supervisor Plotecker is absent and excused. Inspector Ilhafen,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Mouche,
Here.
Commissioner Everly,
Here.
Planner Sumwalt,
Here.
Attorney Macy, Engineer Lysis,
Here.
Administrator Nicholas. Here. And Clerk Capazzo Catch to record the minutes.
Thank you. Notice was given that a public hearing will be held by the Lisbon Plan Commission on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023, during the regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting, which starts at 6:30 PM at the Richard Young Fire Station, North 54 West 26455 Lisbon Road, Lisbon, Wisconsin, to solicit public comments on a request by owner applicant Lane Sharp for a major grading conditional use permit in the A3 Agricultural Residential Estate Zoning District in conjunction with the construction of a landscape pond for aesthetic purposes and recreational use on the property located at North 74 West 27324 Howard's Pass, tax key LSBT 0216.079. Or owner applicant, I don't know who wants to start off. Have you step up to the mic, just state your name and address if you would, please.
All right, afternoon or evening, I suppose. I'm James Charles with Wisconsin Lake and Pond Resource, working as an agent for Lane Sharp. We were the ones that kind of helped spearhead the pond installation and helped wrap up the county permits and all that other stuff. So I guess when it comes down to it, we got the county approval. The town side of things hit a little hiccup on the way there, getting that permit with being sent to a wrong email from the county. Once we got word from the town, followed everything that was in order. All the engineering plans fit from the county right into the town side of things. And at this point, based on the overview sent from Oren, thank you. We don't have any issue other than the requirement to install a fence. Being that we feel it doesn't meet the definition of a swimming pool, and from our experience throughout the state, working on thousands of ponds, installing hundreds, this would be a first for us. We haven't had a pond of this caliber, anything be called a swimming pool anywhere. And I guess that'd be our only issue at the moment. If you have any questions for me or Lane, happy to help.
Any questions from the commission at this time?
Just one quick question to
Hmm?
verify. This pond physically exists. It was installed.
It was dug, the excavation was halted at the town's request.
Right.
And it is, there's a little bit of work to finish it up yet, but the hole is there.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr.
The,
Go ahead.
just a quick question, ponds can obviously be built in a myriad of areas.
Mhm.
And is it typical, sir, that your company installs ponds in subdivisions?
Yes, we do. Our bread and butter, I would say, is private residential ponds, just like this one, from a third of an acre to an acre in size. We also do them for industrial, commercial purposes, but this would be, I'd say, typical of what we do.
Okay, and just for the record, the pond is 0.40
Correct.
acres?
Yep.
All right, the depth of 12 feet, and I believe you said 1 to 4 feet at the edges?
Yep, everything on the as-built was done. So I think that was a 1 to, I don't have the exact, like a 1 to 8, 1 to 10 from 0 to 1 feet slope. 1 to 4 from 1 to 4 feet, and then a 3 to 1 down to 12 with a flat pad at the bottom.
And the liner that was placed in the pond, the, obviously the the dirt or material that came out to create the pond seems to be, obviously it goes around the edge. Is that liner underneath? It looks like the liner is underneath that fill. So it's not, you can't see a liner, in other words.
There, you can see the liner. There are exposed portions of it.
Okay.
Typically, like a typical pond, do you mind if I show you the plans on here to explain better?
Okay,
It may help some of that.
we did, yeah, you'd have to show everyone.
Well, that's fine. Then, well, usually from a depth of 0 to 4 feet, that will be covered in, say, like a decorative stone or a decorative or sand. Some people leave it exposed. It's all up to individual preference. After that, the liner is exposed beyond 4 feet. Sometimes there's in that flat pad in the bottom, there'll be sand, there'll be rock, depending on different groundwater issues, which we didn't run across, or fish structures and the like.
One last question.
Mhm.
Will the pond be aerated?
Yes, because, he's gonna be stocking fish, so there will be an aerator in it.
No further questions.
Anything for you, Jeff? At this
Has,
time?
if it's gonna be aerated, has the electrical been installed?
Yes, electrical has been involved. We did 4 permits.
So if you're gonna speak, you'd have to come up.
We did run,
You just state your name, please.
my name is Lane Sharp, the owner. We did run a conduit from the shop on the bottom corner there. And it goes all the way around the pond, and the aeration system is gonna be on the bottom right side of the pond there. It does have a conduit there. We have not pulled wire in there yet, but it's ready to go.
Did anybody inspect that?
Yeah.
What is the liner made out of? Is it like a plastic or a rubber?
That's an HDPE, synthetic material.
Anything else?
If I can, I'd like to clarify, because in terms of you looking at a CUP and the fact, obviously, the county was notified and we're now doing a CUP after the fact. Pond's in, it's done. At least that's in terms of reading the literature we were given, that's my understanding. Were you aware that you mentioned an email, and I don't remember reading about that. That could be my error. Were you aware that you needed to file for a CUP before you dug the pond?
We do look into permitting, to touch on that email. When we got the approved from the county, I believe he mistyped the email to get to the town. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But the county's never got to the pond. We do our best diligence of reach out to all representing authorities, I guess, for lack of a better word. Everywhere is different, and we did the best we could.
Because the understanding is the county thought, and again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. County thought this was a drainage easement, such as we would see off a commercial space or gas station or et cetera, et cetera.
It wasn't, I don't know if it was, I would say it's a drainage easement, that may be the words, but they were using the natural depression as a worst case scenario, what I was told from Leaf Hague with the county of, you get a big rainstorm in the end of winter, you got a lot of water store, where's it gonna go? So they were using that natural depression as kind of like a stormwater retention pond, even though it never holds water throughout the year. Part of the design of this was to make sure that after the pond was put in, that again, worst case scenario, a whole bunch of rain, when you got a bunch of snow on the ground, where's that water gonna go? That the storage capacity is still equal after construction. So we had to meet that, and it was designed by an engineer to do so.
Okay. And from that standpoint, what Mr. Sharp was an agent from did an agent from the county ever come out to your property and actually physically walk around where you were asking that the pond would be placed?
Not that I'm aware of, no. So with the permitting part, when I originally got the permit, I went in and saw a leaf in person. And he said, I said, am I allowed to dig? He said, yeah, go ahead. Let me know when you're gonna start. Give me a heads up. And it took a long time to find an excavator. We were getting to the point where that permit was gonna expire, so I reached out to him, I extended it, and that's when you guys were noticed, because he resent the email. And that's when you guys noticed and everything came up.
All right. No
So-
further questions at this time.
Did you at any time contact the town?
I believe so. I would have to go through my emails, but I believe I did reach out. I can't say I heard back, but we did
And when you didn't hear back, you didn't think that
We-
was odd?
follow up here and there, but it was in the middle of our busy season and it may have gotten lost in the wash at times as well.
I mean, this isn't a swimming pool.
Understandable.
It's like kind of a swimming pool that's this big. I mean, this is a big swimming pool. I mean, I would think somebody would try to do their due diligence to make sure the municipality it's going into is okay with it before building it. That would be my opinion. Okay.
I personally take a bit of blame for that. Just because everything did take so long to find excavators and everything. And then when I did hear from the county, yes, you got a green light, start digging, let us know when you're going. I personally didn't know to contact the town. So that was on me. I apologize.
All right. You have anyone else, you have anything else to add at this
I
time?
have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anything else from the applicant? Orin?
I would just add that this issue of is this pond or isn't this pond a pool came up, in looking at, the definition from the zoning ordinance and the municipal code has a section on pools of what is a private swimming pool. And, there aren't specific detailed standards for ponds outside of getting the major grading permit, making sure that you have the proper permitting. In the past, ponds of this nature had not been construed to be a private swimming pool. But it is something that we looked at because it came up in discussion at a staff level. And so the definition includes an artificial pool of water designed to hold more than 18 inches, used or intended to be used for the purpose of swimming or bathing. And this pond checks those boxes. There aren't specific standards for ponds, but there are specific standards for pools. One of those being that they be fenced. Problem here is that we're dealing with an after the fact permit, and there is a regulation in the municipal code that says that a pool can't exceed 3% of a lot. So if we call this a pool, it can't exist as it is today, because the size is 0.4 acres and the 3% of the lot would end up being 6,795 roughly square feet based on this being a 5.2 acre lot. So this creates a little bit of a conundrum. The definition of a private swimming pool does exempt in its definition, which I didn't include in this. That's why this ends with a ... There's a little more text after it. It exempts retention and detention ponds. We talked about whether or not this was a retention or detention pond, and the consensus was that it is not, because while there is a component of this project that is providing flood storage and stormwater capacity, if you will, that's the western portion, which is just a depression, if you will. That was the county's requirement, that if you're going to do this wet pond, your landscape pond, you have to have this other portion to still provide the storage that natural depression in your backyard was providing prior to the project. So that area is technically a stormwater pond, if you will, even though it's more like a natural depression, and won't have standing water in it most of the time. So again, going back to this definition of a pool, technically ponds of this nature in general check those boxes if they are going to be 18 inches, deeper. It says an artificial pool of water, so a lined pond would meet that definition. Technically, anything dug that's not a natural depression would meet that definition. So that's the hang up here. Otherwise, this type of pond has received major grading approvals in the past. This is the one hang up that I came across in my review.
So what's staff's recommendation on this?
Staff saying that per that definition, technically it appears to meet the definition of a private swimming pool.
So as the commission, I mean, we have to follow our code. Like, we don't have an ability to just do what we want with the code. So if this is a pool, we have to take this action. If it's not a pool, we can take this action. So is the commission being asked to define if this is a pool, or is the commission just supposed to interpret this as a pool at this time and then move forward from that aspect?
So I believe the staff's recommendation, statement is that this is considered a pool, looking at our definition. So, the major grading would be, with the conditions that were set forth in our staff report.
May I make one comment on that? In your definitions, it states a pool is a structure. A structure is also defined in your codes. In those codes, exempted from being qualified as structures are, landscaping, earthwork, including graded areas, filled areas, ditches, berms, or earthen terraces. Would this pond not fit better under landscaping and earthwork in a graded area versus an official structure?
I think if it wasn't considered, if it wasn't a swimming pool, which is what it is, it
Well,
was
I'm
defined
arguing-
as a recreational swimming pool.
I'm arguing that by definition, a graded landscape area is not a swimming pool because it's not a structure, whereas a swimming pool is a structure.
Doesn't the
I don't think he's reading it correctly. It says a structure above, comma, at or below grade, comma, or an artificial pool of water.
Well,
Separate things.
wouldn't this be any pond that's basically in the county then?
You know, it's an
Or in the
artificial
town,
pool of water
excuse me.
Designed to hold water more than 18 inches deep. User intended to use the purpose of swimming, bathing,
What about that? I know probably half a dozen or more in the town of Lisbon that are built the exact same way, same liner, everything. Not one of them has a fence. They all have their permits.
I don't know how deep they are or anything.
They're the exact, like we use the exact excavator, same company. Everything is one that was built 3 years ago,
Where's that one?
right by you guys' town hall. The last name is the Millers.
$70 acres.
There's one only a quarter mile from our property, right by the Quick Trip. There's one right there. You can see on the GIS. There's another one right behind the town hall. It shows a pier, a beach, everything.
So we would review those if we receive some complaints on them. We would go out and have our building inspector go out and review those. If you're putting in a complaint, we can take that in writing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Very unusual, I did receive a phone call on this. It's not, I don't believe not necessarily the construction or the CUP issue. The concern was that, and a little backstory, there's a residence near to where your property is, where an individual child drowned, I believe it's 5 to 10 years ago, in a backyard, I don't know if it's a pool, I have not walked on the property, I mean, these are all private properties. And the party's concern, who lives near you, was that a child could wander onto your property and possibly, drown in this pond, because this is a rather, obviously it's a size pond, it's larger than a swimming pool. And now that Oren is given, if the definition stands and it's to be considered a pool, because you had stated that you wanted your kids to fish and swim.
It's
Correct,
more of
and
a
bond.
fishery for me. I
Yeah.
just applied for the permit with the DNR. We want to stock it full of fish and it's more of a fishery.
Because everything that was in the barn is gone. Your pond has been constructed. I can't see destroying that. So that raises, and I'm thinking in my mind about, okay, can we possibly put a fence around this structure? I realize it's costly, but that was the concern that was raised to myself. Would be someone could wander onto the property and possibly, if they fell into the pond, because water is a great attraction for kids.
But what about even the campgrounds that are local in the county? There's so many campgrounds with these exact ponds, same design. They don't have fences.
Yeah, well, I'm
We're in
just,
that. Sure, we're gonna talk first though.
Yeah.
This is what is around outside the town of Lisbon does not matter.
But just in the town of Lisbon, there's probably 10.
So I have no idea when they were built. I don't know their structures. I know nothing. I do know we have to discuss yours tonight and we have to figure this out. It's unfortunate it is there because we did not get a chance to review this before it was there. So we aren't getting a chance to say, okay, you got this, but we would like you to do it this way. We just have something.
Yeah.
It's here. We have to deal with it. It sucks. That's what we're gonna have to do here. I'm gonna tell you, an in-ground pool is dug out of dirt. There's sand, sometimes there's cement, but otherwise there's sometimes just sand and a structure and a liner. It really isn't much different than this. We're stuck between a rock and a hard place right now because we have a code that we have to go by. We can't just say, hey, great, you got it, looks great, go ahead. We have to look at this code and we have to abide by this. And there's zoning board of appeals, but like we'd say, no, but you created the hardship here. And cost cannot be something thought of in that hardship.
I'm
So
not worried about the cost. I'm worried about just how we would be the only one that would have to do it out of thousands in the state. Why would we be the only one? Like a pool, I could understand. You walk off the edge, it drops how many feet? A pond does not. I can walk out 30 feet in this pond. It's gonna be maybe chest deep. It's not like you're gonna fall off the edge.
May I address the safety piece? here?
Are we
I just-
In the public hearing or are we in?
We're in the
public
public
hearing.
we're in public hearing.
I don't.
My name is Cassandra Annick. I'm also property owner with Lane, and we have 5 kids. They're all 10 and under. Yeah, I'm happy
Yeah.
to. We have 5 kids. They're 10 and under. We also have a swimming pool, an above ground pool that follows all of the codes that it has to. This is not something that we put in to try to be unsafe or negligent. All of our neighbors have kids all the same age and are all equally as excited to fish and do all of the things around it. So I want to just at least address the piece of that's horrible. And I don't know how I would live with myself if something like that happened. That said, I personally think putting a fence around this is a massive eyesore for everybody around it as well, right? So, I mean, considering past precedent in all of this and the fact that we're talking about, what it would look like and the safety piece, I at least want to make sure that we're responding to what you're saying because I'm a mom and I would not be okay with
Yeah.
something like that
Well,
happening.
As the chairman has said, I hope you appreciate the fact that we're doing something after the fact.
Get it?
Okay.
And I think it was an
as
administrative
if
mistake,
someone
right?
built a $1 million home and pulled no permits. And so what do we do?
I
Do we tell them
personally,
to tear the home
Hold on,
down?
let Ed talk, please.
Yeah.
We don't. And Chairman Osterman has outlined it very succinctly. Hit the nail on the head, all those other euphemisms. So it'll be it. We'll see how the other, commissioners feel. It was expressed to me, I have skin in the game if the permitting process or something, if we've gone really awry, that will be addressed. There,
Yeah.
there are very skilled people up here
I know.
that can, look at that issue.
And I'll be honest, I take full blame for the permit. I honestly did not, I thought I was okay. I thought Leaf had sent it over, like, when he said, go ahead, I didn't know to go to you guys. I thought that was done behind the scenes, and I apologize.
No, Mr. Sharp, you are not the first person who has not pulled a permit in the town of Lisbon, and soon to be the village of Lisbon. And, it was like the cart, the horse, and all these other, so we appreciate, I appreciate the apology. No
Can I ask him a
no
question?
further comment.
How do you maintain the water level? Is there a well on the other side? On the
From the,
opposite.
we just use the garden hose because it doesn't take much. It
Okay,
doesn't
because
change.
I thought I had seen a pipe on the other end, which I assumed was a well lateral, but
No, that's just, we had a garden hose and I just, had it onto a 1-inch hose, a hard line, so we could drive over it.
Are
Okay.
you talking on the north side of it?
yes.
Oh.
Yeah,
I think that's
northwest
6
kind
Oh,
of
no,
side.
that's our, yeah,
That is, it's called cross structures and Hager, Jane. That's in worst case scenario, they need to get water out. Otherwise, it's just has boards inside a big box to maintain the water level, and those boards are static.
So so what I saw was like a relief, right? For if it gets too much water in it. So what happens if you have a dry summer? How do you maintain the water level? Just a garden hose, just
Just a
a
garden hose,
simple
yeah.
garden hose? Okay.
because we did fill it up with a garden hose. It took a bit, but it wasn't that bad.
I'd say that's a lot of water. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Is there anyone else here that wants to speak to this public hearing tonight? Nobody here. Anyone on Zoom?
Chairman, we do have one hand raised on Zoom.
Okay.
Gina on Zoom?
Hi there.
If you could state your name and address.
Sure, Gina Kozlik. N75 W27323 Oakwood Road.
Hey, Gina. So we have a letter from you here too. I don't know if you want me to read this or if you want to read your own letter.
Well, I can give you the highlights. So I'm the property abutting this. You can see my pole barn in the pictured photo that you have up. You know, I do have concerns as stated about safety. I'm not looking for these people to put a fence around this feature. I think the pond is a great thing. I am concerned about access for my property, the property next to me, and there's another one that all abut this. You know, had we had a chance to look at this before it was put in, maybe that could have been part of what we requested, was just something against the lot lines. The other people next to me on the other side have fences, so this is probably not a concern for them, but it is for me. You know, someday if I have a grandchild or the people next door to me sell their house and they have young kids, I do think it's an attraction. And I worry, especially with the past history of what's happened. And that did happen on the other side of me. So those were my comments. I did submit photos. It's large. It's a very large water feature. So, you know, I think it should at least be considered to protect those abutting lots. Thank you.
You want me to read your letter too, Gina? or is that-
If you'd like, that's fine.
It's up to you. It's your, read it. Okay, we'll read it out loud. Is there anyone else on Zoom? I'll read her letter. Dear Clerk and Plan Commission members, thank you for the opportunity to submit comment, the additional information on the application for conditional use pond installation of Lane Sharp. Our rear lot line abuts the applicant's property along with several other residential properties. The application page for the pond indicates a 0.4 acres synthetically lined landscape pond for aesthetic purposes and recreational use. The complete pond, however, has already been installed and is much larger. The proposed land disturbance was indicated at 42,788 square feet, almost an acre with a maximum water depth of 12 feet. I'm attaching photos of the completed pond taken from the tree line area of our property, lying by our pole barn to give you a visual of the size and scale of this pond. I'm asking the commission to consider fencing requirement at least at the lot lines of the accessible residential properties. We know water attracts children and can be a safety concern. I have a real justifiable concern for the safety of our kids now and in the future in our neighborhood, especially in light of our neighbor's loss in 2012 of their 2-year-old son in a pond. And it links a Fox 6 article for that. This was our immediate neighbor at North 75 West 27355 Oakwood Road. Thank you for your consideration, Gina and John Gosling. And then we have pictures on here. Is there anything else you want to add? Okay, I'm just gonna bring the discussion up here then. Staff's recommendation at this point is that this is a swimming pool. It meets the definition of a swimming pool. Is there any? You guys have had a lot more time with this than we have, obviously. There are other ponds in the town. But they were done before tonight. We don't have any. I have information here to base this on of what they are, how they're built. I know there's other line ponds, but they're the ones I'm aware of are not very deep. I see their complaint, but I legally see our stance.
Right. And it may have been with a previous planner or attorney that they didn't find this, find the pool description that this actually fits into our pool description. And so since we do have our code that specifically details what a pool is and everything about this structure is a pool in according to our code. So.
Okay, comments from the commission. Jeff, do you have any?
You know, I struggle with things sometimes, and this is one. Because I went back and read, the definition of a swimming pool and what's required. And what caught me is two things was, the fencing. And, around this type of structure, this large is pretty expensive, I would say. But the second thing is the limitation on the size of pools. With 5.2 acres, it'd be about approximately 6,800 square feet. And this is, about 3 times that. And thinking about it as a pool, and I'm trying to figure out what the intent of the board was in putting in this definition and these limitations. And it seems to me that they did anticipate larger bodies of water because they did limit it to 3% of the size of the lot. So that indicates to me that they anticipated that this would fall under the definition of a pool as included in the code. So, however, in my mind, when you talk about, they did say for recreational purposes, but for me, recreational purpose fishing, I'd call that recreational purpose. And if you look at the way it's built, it's shallow out quite a bit, and then it drops a little bit more steeply, and then gets down to the 12-foot level. It doesn't seem it's really that conducive to splashing around in it. I don't know. But I am concerned because, or really struggling with it because it seems to fit into the definition, or at least in my mind, that in adopting this, that they did want to limit the size of these things. I don't know what the answer is, but the code, I think, to me, reads pretty clearly.
Ed?
Well, dilemma I'm struggling with is, but I've mentioned concerns about the county, the permitting process. Obviously, the pond is in. Major thing I'm struggling with at the moment, besides the code restrictions, is it a pool or not? Is it a pond, or it's obviously a pond, or does it fit the definition of a pool? I'm gonna use the word, I don't know if it's appropriate, punishing the homeowner, because obviously to fence this thing would cost a lot of money. So that's what I'm struggling with right now. I mean, I don't like the way the whole permitting thing was, whether the county dropped the ball on this, who knows? Because it's certainly not, again, it's not a retention pond, to me, it's a recreational pond. It's for swimming and for fishing. But again, that's what I'm struggling with at the moment.
Joe?
To me, this is a swimming pool. I mean, it's lined, it's got a permanent pool of water. There's no outlet for all intents and purposes. But the biggest thing that concerns me is we're dealing with an after the fact situation where if this would have come to us originally before construction, we would have had an opportunity to put constraints on things such as size, fencing, and the proximity of this thing in the middle of a residential subdivision. As far as whether or not permits were pulled, having dealt with permits for over 50 years in my career as an engineer, that's the responsibility of the property owner, and whether or not you did or did not know about something, from my standpoint, I've been in that situation. I don't think that that's a reason why things should be relaxed or the constraints shouldn't be enforced. I have a very, very deep concern about the location of this pond, where it is in a residential area. And I don't care about anything else in the town of or village of Lisbon or in southeastern Wisconsin. To me, that's immaterial. This is a bad thing to have out there as an attractive nuisance. And I've got young grandchildren. I know what I did when I was 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years old, what to do stuff. If this were a stormwater pond, it's not the same thing as stormwater pond. This is a swimming pool, and reading the definition here, to me, this is clearly a swimming pool, and it needs to be protected. The area needs to be protected from this pond. And as far as I'm concerned, when we get around to this thing, it's going to have a fence around it, or I'm not going to vote in favor of this at all in any way, shape, or form.
Brian?
Well, if it's a pool, then he can't have it. So if we're gonna stick to the rules, then he can't even have it because it's over the, was it 3%?
Yes.
Correct. Be considerably smaller, correct?
Yeah, so you'd have to either fill it in, redo it, or something like that. Plus, if we're gonna have it considered a pool, I think there's something in our ordinance, or maybe you can help me out because I don't have it in front of me, but there's treatment. That there's something in our pool ordinance where you can't let it get away on you. It can't be stagnant. So I don't know if that means filtration or if that means chlorine. I doubt he's gonna chlorinate it if he's gonna put fish in it. So that's one of my concerns. And then if it is a pool and he puts a fence around it, by code, he's only required to put 1 3-foot gate. And that's a pretty big pool. So if there was a rescue effort, I'm afraid that a fence could impede that rescue effort. I do agree though that it checks all the boxes, but those are just some of my concerns.
So to answer your question, it'd be under disinfection, provision shall be made for the disinfection of all pool water. No gaseous chlorination shall be permitted.
Thank you.
Something I wanted to point out, that was raised by one of the plan commission members, so as far as the intent of where that 3% comes from, the 3% comes from the accessory structure section of the zoning ordinance. And that's probably where they got that figure for the pool section, was from the accessory structure. So accessory structures are limited to 3% on a lot, unless it's in a business or industrial district, and then the plan commission can approve something larger via a site plan of operation. So that's likely where that 3% number comes from. The issue here is that, I think we all agree this isn't a structure, because it's just a lined hole in the ground. So that's why I use
That's
the
what a
term.
swimming pool is, so it's a
Well, the
Lined
swimming
hole in the
pool,
ground.
right, so I think it's unfortunately somewhere in between, right? That's why I used the term conundrum earlier. It is meeting the definition of a private swimming pool. It is not a structure.
How big is this as a percentage of the lot? I mean, if it's an acre, it's,
It's probably about 9%, I'm guessing.
Yeah, in that ballpark.
okay, any other comments or questions or in the open public hearing portion of this? So no other evidence can be added after we close this. Is there anything the applicant wishes to add? So we can't add any new evidence after we close this public hearing. So if there's anything you want to add, you should do it now. Come on, yeah, come on.
I guess I'm just gonna comment on our ponds that were specifically dug for, say, we do a lot of pond installs for campgrounds, which are specifically for swimming. They see hundreds of kids a day. Those do not meet the definition of pools throughout the state. They don't have to be fenced. And that's just from our experience by state definition. We've gone through this with representatives from the states. Ponds do not meet the pool definition. Similar to what Oren brought up, that they need to have water circulated. Say, as soon as we start filtering water or add chlorination, they become pools. But because we don't do any of that, they stay as ponds under state definition.
I have a question for the applicant. Are there any provisions, this is in the middle of a subdivision, it's a platted subdivision. Are there any dictates or rules as part of the subdivision that permits or does not permit this type of installation?
To be honest, I'm not sure of that.
I think so.
I'm,
Homework
I didn't-
needs to be done.
I
on
know, but I
this.
didn't realize we were part of a subdivision. I thought we were just our own entity there.
Well,
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
7 lots,
There's
right?
7 lots.
We
and-
don't have any kind of like guidelines or any kind of setup.
So no HOA.
Thank
No,
you. There's
no
no
HOA.
HOA, there's
There's
no
7.
dues, there's no like legal documents that indicate any kind of restrictions that we would have within the property, if that helps.
well, you're part of the subdivision according to your tax bill, so
Yep.
that's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Just the 7 lots around us. And
Right.
I know other than Gina behind us, or Paul, I don't know. Do you have any?
Yeah.
I don't know anybody in the 7 lots that has a complaint other than Gina. Everybody else
And
we
it-
talked to.
Honestly, the complaint doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that as for an HOA, no, we don't have one in there.
Okay, thank you.
Don't,
Sorry.
I mean, looking at this, I like water. I'm a big water guy. I mean, I'm in the water as much as I can be in summer. I get why you want it there. What we're stuck with is we have a portion of our code that this thing meets. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether it seems stupid, doesn't matter, it's there. And this is what makes things difficult. And I don't want to keep beating a dead horse with the fact that had we had this discussion before it went in, this is where we iron everything out. Right
Okay.
now, it's there.
Look, respectfully, I think if this is clearly, it was an administrative error. I agree with you. It would have been nice. It would have been a lot less stress for us too, if it was done earlier, right? But I agree with you. I mean, it feels like what you guys are reading feels a little contradictory in general. And I get that the bigger concern here is a safety thing. We take it seriously too, but I realize that that's the piece that everybody's probably most concerned about. So I respect that. I understand it. Yeah, we wish it would have been cleared up ahead of time as well.
Chairman? So how do you plan on making sure it's safe for your neighbors,
For our neighbors,
right?
well, like I said, we have 5 kids. They're all under 10.
Yeah, but that's your, but,
We've got
but-
that too, right?
right,
And-
but keep in mind that that's your children and you put them in that situation. Just like when I moved onto a lake, I put my children in that situation. But, you said that you want to make sure that it's safe. How are you keeping it safe for the rest of the neighborhood?
Well, I can tell you from a perimeter kind of standpoint, we already have landscape plans to put added trees in there and try to block some of that from the neighbors that we're trying to figure out
Yep.
as well.
And it's pretty, honestly, the lot line is just full of trees trying to get through there. The part, I guess, by Gina's house, it's a little more open. But one side, it's all barbed wire down there. The other side's a big hill up top. There's fence on the other side. It's the only area, I guess, would be her property.
We also do have, right now, we have ring cameras all over the place. So anytime there's movement, we're knowing about it. I guess we probably need to consider if there is other things because of the concerns that are out there. Most of the people with little kids are in the front of our house and have been really supportive of the project. You know, if we need to think about what else to put in the back, or we need to put additional landscaping or features back there, I would be open to that. I'm far more open to it than putting a fence in. I think that's a little bit more of an eyesore, but I don't think it's something we're against by any means. You know, we take it pretty seriously from a safety standpoint.
So Gina had made the comment about putting it not around your pool, but at the lot line. Would that still be an eyesore for you?
Would it be just for her property? Because
I
don't
can't make
see-
a decision for
I
them.
don't-
I'm just trying to
nobody
figure
else,
out a
I
way
know we
to.
talked to all our neighbors, nobody else.
But if-
Yeah, I mean, we'd be covering a pretty long piece right there.
But if it's a pool, the fence has to go all the way around.
Right.
There's no park fence, there's
Yeah,
no
we'd
half
be-
fence,
We'd be
It's gotta be-
covering 5 acres of
and
fencing at that
and it's
point.
gotta be, well, it doesn't have to go around the whole property,
Right.
just around the pool.
Yeah.
So if it's gonna be considered a pool, let's just cut to the chase, you're gonna have to put up a fence.
And reduce the size. So, I mean, as far as anything with stormwater retention ponds, I mean, this doesn't, I mean, there's times things can meet both, but there's nothing on this one, right? I mean, this is.
We had the engineer look at it to see if it would fall under retention detention pond and it did not fall under those categories.
So with Leif at the county reviewing this and requiring them to add that area to the west of the pond or northwest of the pond as flood storage, this pond that was constructed does not have any type of stormwater management or quality requirements, or it basically is not providing any use for stormwater management. So there's no flood storage there. It's all off to the side. So
So we can't cross over one to the other. It's a
There-
separate entity.
it's a separate entity. Yes, that's true.
So. I'm gonna just, is this a hole in our code? Is this? I mean, it just wasn't thought about back in the day. Do other communities have things that cover this? I know I'm putting people on the spot here, but
Yeah,
We haven't researched
I did not research
yeah.
that.
I mean, cause I see industrial retention ponds that are much larger, but. they're-
wait.
So-
One thing everybody keeps forgetting, the definition we're referring to, and correct me if I'm wrong, is private swimming pools. We're not talking, this deals with private swimming pools. It doesn't have anything to do with the parks or the beach,
But we need to identify. If I'm the applicant, I'm pissed. I'm not just gonna say it. I am. I'm looking at this going, what the heck? But we're sitting up here ticked because you didn't come to us. Conditional use process is where the neighbor comes in and says, this is my concern. We address the concern, we look at the code and we move forward. It's looking at what's different in the area, because you're saying we got all these ponds all over the town. We have no, even if we do, they're not here tonight. We're not reviewing
I
those.
understand.
Yeah,
that.
and there was no ill intent with any of this at all.
Right.
It's interesting to me, and I'm not expecting you guys to have an answer. It's just something that's coming to mind for me in terms of comment. Like, it is interesting to me that the restrictions or that what we would be doing on private property is more restrictive and more, we're requiring more than what we would on something public or at a campground or, whatever that is. It's interesting.
At all. Do you have a lifeguard that's going to be there 24/7 when the park
I camp all summer and there's never a lifeguard. So I respectfully, I
Natural.
disagree with that.
Natural features though, is one thing. This isn't artificially. You're not moving next to a pond that's been there. You're bringing the pond next to the people.
Understood.
So.
It's just, it seems very gray in terms of the differences on the private versus anything that would be more public. So
Mr.
not
Chairman.
making the argument one way or another. It's just interesting.
Schedule.
There's 11 lots surrounding your property. It freezes in the winter and somebody goes out there in the middle of your 12-foot deep pond that goes through. I don't want to be the one sitting here saying, I wish the heck we would have done something. This is very near and dear to my persona. I am scared to death. I'm worried about not the people necessarily living there today, but are there in 5 or 10 years. And I don't want to put the town, the village, or you, or any of those 11 property owners in a situation where something is jeopardized. It's very black and white to me.
I understand that concern. I think the only rebuttal I would have to that is, somebody that's a property owner in the future that's not there today would also know that it's there and would know the risk, right? So it's not an unknown risk to them going in. So I think that's the only thing that's different there. But yeah, I mean, it's a pond, it's there.
Anything else? Any other evidence to be introduced? Okay. Anyone else on Zoom?
No hands raised on Zoom.
Anyone else here may wish to make a comment? All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing then at 7:23.
Thank you.
I just. All right. That brings us into our regular plan commission meeting. We already did roll call. Item 2 is citizens' comments. Anyone wish to make any comments on anything on the agenda tonight? All right, anyone on Zoom?
No hands raised on Zoom.
Item 3 is approval of the minutes of the January 5th, 2023 public hearing and plan commission meeting.
So moved.
Jeff, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
By Ed. All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimous. Item 4, unfinished business. A, discussion and necessary action of request by applicant owner Samuel Abraham, level-headed mud jacking for the property located at North 51 West 22222 Lisbon Road, LSBT 0288.980 for the following in the B2 local business zoning district. Determination of similarity for a service contractor facility and approval of original site plan and plan of operation. And the applicant here tonight. Or you want to start us off?
Yeah, this is a resubmittal. You've seen this application previously. Since that time, there was a amendment to the zoning ordinance to provide for the addition of a use in the B2 district. So the property is zoned B2 local business district, and according to section 25B2KK, which was the added language, service contractor facilities for electricians, plumbers, roofers, carpenters, and subject to the plan commission's determination, similar trades and services to be used as sales offices, showrooms, and accessory storage for associated equipment, vehicles, and supplies, which may be allowed by the plan commission, all of which must be located inside of a building, otherwise authorized by the zoning code, or screened to the plan commission's satisfaction, are allowed as a permitted use in the B2 district. Level-headed Mud Jackers LLC is requesting the plan commission to determine whether the proposed use is similar to the service contractor facilities listed in section 25B 2KK of the town zoning ordinance. So that's the first order of business before you. Nothing else has changed in regard to this application. The only other comment of note in the planner report is that the petitioner has included on their site plan intended locations to install landscaping around the perimeter of the property to help screen the property. Those are marked with Ts on the plan that was provided. The petitioner hasn't submitted a detailed landscape plan identifying the species size and specific location of the proposed landscape plantings. The Plan Commission should determine whether a formal landscape plan should be submitted for staff review. I'm recommending that be done and have added a condition. It would be condition 3 under the recommendation for approval.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add? If just have you step up to the mic, if you would.
Sam Abraham, property owner at North 51 West 2222 West Lisbon Road or Lisbon Road. The only thing that I would add is after our first discussion, we had spoken about the quarry owning the property, the surrounding property. So as far as the tree line and things of that nature, I believe it was you, Joe, that mentioned they would potentially be responsible for the screening or fencing around that area when they plan to excavate. I don't have any issues planting the trees or, you know, adding a little color to our property. It is kind of a bare site with, you know, surroundings of a farm right now. So either way, it's okay with me. But if they're going to, at some point, disturb the tree line by, you know, taking it out or excavating or putting a fence around it. I guess what I'm getting at is if there's really no point to have it, is it necessarily something that needs to be done?
So we don't have a landscaping plan at all. That's what we
have. We have a rough.
Right.
But that you haven't.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Joe.
You haven't submitted a formal landscaping plan with size and species. as
Correct.
Orin referred to. In fact, the condition 3 needs to be expanded a little bit, but we can, my personal belief is that the property line coincident with the quarry isn't as important to me as the other 3 sides of your property.
Sure.
Because as you allude to, nobody from the quarry is gonna complain because there isn't a tree along the thing, and you wouldn't be putting it on their property, so when they did their work, whenever in the next 30 years,
Right.
it's not going, it shouldn't affect what you've got, so I think that we could, as part of the, review and approval of this, say, I would be in favor of the landscaping taking place on 3 sides, not on the north side.
Okay.
For the reason that you stated, it makes sense. I mean, there's no point in putting up a tree so you can't see a rock pile.
Right.
I think the quarry property actually is on the west side as well. West end north.
Yes, so it'd be the west and the
Yeah.
north,
But the
north end. And
West
then-
end
west
is viewable from the road.
Right, and then Highway
north
K
and
is,
west.
Yeah, okay.
On the south.
I would say that 2 of those sides. I'd rather see you put the money into the rest of the property.
The west side is very visible from the road, I will say though.
correct. If
You
you're
could
headed
have some
east.
screening there
Sure.
on your property. I think I'm not worried about the north side.
Okay.
So we just need a formal landscape plan.
Okay.
Jeff, any comments on that with the landscape?
No, I would agree. It seems to me that the side that needs it most is probably the east.
Something along the front. I mean,
Sure.
see it asphalt
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, I agree 100%. Absolutely. And on the east side of the residential property, there is some trees and things of that nature that I can speak to Joe, the neighbor. I'm more than happy to add to what he has, but he's done a pretty good job as far as trees and landscape and borders and mulch and things of that nature. So I don't have a whole lot of room on the side of that building there to add to it, and I don't want to make him feel like, what are you doing, you know, what I've done already.
I think the landscape plan would show what you can do.
And
Sure.
kind of what you've shown here, just an actual. plan.
Okay.
I mean, everybody's seen what's in the back of the package.
Yes.
Are they okay with that? Just put it in an actual plan.
Yes, yeah.
And would that meet our,
Because even in the,
Confident staff will work with you. and come up
Sure.
with something that really- Okay.
because even in the front, there's a smaller island right in front of the building that I'd like to, you know, make a little more presentable. Like you said, there's a huge lot with nothing there but some grass, so,
Anything will be an improvement.
right, absolutely.
I'm ready to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, if you're so inclined.
floor is yours.
Number one, I find the proposal to be consistent with the definition of a service contract facility. Did you want to do these separately or together?
Please. We'll do them separate.
Okay.
Right.
Then I would so move with the stipulation that the submittal of a formal landscaping plan showing size and species and location be submitted to staff for their review and approval.
As part of it, that's number 2.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's
So number 1, you're making a
Right.
motion to approve.
right,
That is determination of the similarity for a service contractor facility.
correct.
All right, is there a second to that?
I will second that.
Second by Nelson, any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimous. All right, now we have the approval of the original site plan of operation.
And I will make a motion to approve the original site plan and planning of operation with the addition of a more detailed landscaping plan for the southeast and west portions of the property be submitted to staff for their review and approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Nelson, discussion.
I just want to clarify, there already is a condition, so we're modifying the condition. I don't want duplicative conditions. So you're
Okay.
just giving guidance to the planner. and
Correct.
we'll
Correct.
add that to the condition.
The motion and second, understand that?
Yes.
Yes,
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimous.
Walking Zone Village.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
it will be an improvement.
I'll have to get that sign that says, come to the Village of Lisbon.
All right, item 5, new business, A, discussion necessary action on request by owner applicant Lane Sharp for a major grading permit related to the stormwater pond in the A3 agricultural residential estate zoning district in the property located at North 74 West 27324 Howard's Pass, tax key LSBT 0216.079. All right, well, we have all the evidence that was given to us. So this comes down to whether or not we find this to be under the definition of a pool. So I have a question with the recommendation, the staff recommendation in here. So if this is to be found a pool, we cannot even approve the conditional use for grading on this, correct? Because technically it's too large.
Technically, it exceeds the 3%.
So if we find this to be a pool, the only thing we legally can do is deny it. Is that correct?
And then you'll have to cut it in half roughly. Or a third.
Yeah, does anyone wish to make a motion or have discussion?
I'll make a motion that, of finding that this is in fact a pool and be governed accordingly. By definition,
Deny the, is that a motion?
and deny
Condition
the
issues. Conditional use.
grading permit.
Is there a second? Second from anyone? I'll second for discussion.
I think we should add, and in fighting, you said that, but could we clarify also that it exceeds the 3%? That as a pool, it exceeds the 3%. You said something to the effect and Kathy wrote it down and abide accordingly, something like that, but you mean that it has to be denied because it's a swimming pool and it exceeds the 3%, correct?
I'll modify my motion to that effect.
Second is also okay with that. Any other discussion on this? Jeff, anything? for you?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we're really been presented with a fait accompli. And it kind of begs the question, what happens, if we do take action on this? I mean, what I'm saying is it's already in the ground, it's existing. And if we deny this, what's the consequences, I guess, is my question.
Well, if you're asking from a legal standpoint, they've just like somebody built a building illegally and, and they couldn't figure out a way to legalize it, they have to take the building down. They have an illegal, situation.
Chairman? Chairman? Okay. Is it, just as we've done in the past for some other situations where our code was not as clear, is this something that if you deny tonight that we can work on our code to be more much clearer in this situation?
Well, first I would respectfully say the board isn't saying it's unclear, the board is saying it's clear.
Okay.
So, I mean, there are options available, but, they can check with the planner, they can check and see what, if any,
Okay.
I mean, an option, if you're stating this, Madam Administrator, is they can petition to amend the code.
Right.
Jeff, anything else?
No, I just was curious as to, what the end game is. I'm very hesitant. I always hate when you're in a situation where, something was done and you're doing it after the fact. It makes it just that much more difficult. But I just wanted to know what I thought was the end result is.
Between a rock and a hard place, of course. Commissioner Eberly. Legitimate concern, definitely. After the fact, problem, Commissioner Boucher. We can get all kinds of alerts on phones. We live in an IT world. I wonder if there'd be any way, I'm just speculating, that if there was someone that was on the property, not your 5 kids or whatever, you would get an alert like we gets alerts on
You
our
have to
phone.
talk to the board, please, because they can't respond to you, so it's not fair to.
Okay,
ask them questions.
well, Attorney Mason, I hope I was talking to the board, but anyway, that I'm just speculating here as a way that, because
But at this point, it's not so much precautions that can be taken as much as according to our code. does
right.
This meet the definition of a pool.
Well,
If
at
you
this
look at
point,
the
we have said yes.
Whether or not
Hence-
the code is good or bad, does it meet the definition of our code?
Yeah, in that sense, then. Because I'm against destroying the structure, so if the end game is we've got to go with the fence, then that's what we're gonna go.
The
That's where
problem
I'm
is
leaning.
it's bigger than, it's too big.
It's too big.
It's too big.
And we don't even get to the second question.
Okay. That's right, it is too big. It's not a pool.
Okay, anything else you want to add, Joe?
Not at this time.
Brian?
Yeah, my question would be, so if we deny this, does that stifle anything that, any of their options? In other words, does it stifle their options to have a code amendment or something of that nature? So if we deny it the way it is, they can still
All you're
request,
denying is the middle that's before. you.
okay.
I think some of the question might be is if it's denied, what is the next action the town would have to take? Obviously, we're in winter here. Nobody's doing a lot of land disturbances in winter right now, so no, I wouldn't believe that we
Right.
would be ordering anything, any reclamation to happen before the end of winter, which would give a
No.
little bit of time to have discussions
On code.
on code. But I mean, just to reiterate, we have a code, we have a finding from the plan commission that this, according to the code that exists right now, that this is a pool. The plan commission legally cannot act in any other manner at this point, correct? So, I mean, we are legally required at this point to uphold the code that is in here with the finding. Just so people don't think this is a opinion point at this. This is, it meets this code, this is the action we have to take. They could go to the zoning board of appeals, is that correct?
I'm not going through all of their options. I know that's, you know,
Well-
that's not our job, but, is that an option? Sure, I think certain circumstances. Not for variance.
Sure. So. That is where we're at right now. Any final discussion? All right, we have a motion to deny the CU. All in favor of denying the CU, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous on that decision. 5-0. All right, this time in item B would be discussion only regarding status update for Blaze Landscaping at West 220 North 5859 Town Lane Road, LSBT 0244.999.001.
This was, I just wanted to update you at the last plan commission meeting. You asked me to check into seeing where Blaze was, you approved their CUP and it didn't look like he was making any progress. I did speak with Blaze and he did indicate he now has put in the culvert and they are working on it. They expect it to be done before the year up for the CUP. So they are working on it.
They are working on the driveway also?
Yes, they got the driveway actually.
Okay, I haven't been by there.
Yep.
since the last- Okay.
Yes, they
Th- Thank you, staff, for doing that. Appreciate
You're welcome.
Any questions? Commission?
No.
All right, thank you. Item C, discussion only regarding proposed text amendment to the zoning code regarding off-site signage for parcels located within Lisbon Business Park East.
One moment while I bring up an item to share. Okay. At the January 3rd Plan Commission meeting, Quick Trip Inc. inquired whether they could have an off-premise sign on the Pizza Ranch property. Their aim is to have visibility from Town Line Road, since their main entrance is off of Leeds. Looking at the sign code, off-premise signs are not allowed. They are considered to be, the quote from the code is off-premise signs, except as specifically allowed for in this ordinance, are a prohibited sign. The only instance that I found of an off-premise sign specifically allowed was a temporary sign. They're looking for a permanent sign. So there's a definition for off-premise sign, which is a sign that is not located on the premise of the associated use. There's also a definition for on-premise sign, which is defined as a sign associated with the property use situated on the same lot as the sign. So according to the ordinance, for permanent sign regulations by district and type, there's a situation, there's a definition for a single tenant and multi-tenant, and there's different regulations for those. So a multi-tenant building could have a sign with, the different tenants on it. Again, in this instance, there's no avenue in the code to allow for properties in the same business park to have off-premise signs on each other's properties or within an easement or anything of that nature. So the type of off-premise sign requested by Quick Trip doesn't appear to be allowed by the current sign code. So we're asking the Planning Commission to consider whether they're amenable to amending the sign code to allow off-premise signs on a property or outlot under certain circumstances for the benefit of the businesses within specifically Business Park East. Up on the screen is what was provided by Quick Trip of what they had in mind, which would be a monument style sign that has both their logo, Pizza Ranch's logo, and then the price of fuel at their facility, of course.
I used to, I would say almost live when I was working for a living in a business park that had a semi-directory at the entrance to the business park, which obviously was off-premise signs. I've also worked on and designed several business parks in areas, and I think if properly done, I don't have a personal problem with them. I have an issue with what they're proposing up there because this all of a sudden grew in the last month from a directory to an advertisement with gas prices on it. That I am not in favor of. I think that is really going beyond that. I think that what I'm trying to consider when I saw this on the agenda, what you had drafted up on, I think we need to decide not just for this particular business park, but for signage in general, because I can see the same request coming in the other business park we have over on Lisbon and F. I mean, the entrance to that, because there's some people hid way back in through there. So I think we one size fits all, if that'll work, because if we make this only for this particular location, we're going to be back at this again someplace else. I mean, I personally don't have a problem with business directories in business parks or industrial parks for that matter, if they're properly done. The question is what's considered tasteful and doesn't look like a sign up in Rhinelander with everybody's cabin with the arrows on the black and white signs. That's an exaggeration, of course, but some of these things can turn into that. So in this particular case, the village is the developer of that property, as opposed to a developer coming in and developing a business park, which we will see, I would believe, in the future, someplace else in the town, in the village. So I think that we need to consider, do we want to say, no, you can't have them anywhere at all? Which I'm not in favor of, or we provide some type of key criteria for their approval. It's a long-winded statement, but that's what I'm trying to get at. That's what I've been toying with since I saw the agenda last week. We need to have something. And we can't just limit it to this area.
So you like it, just don't limit it.
Right. Except I'm never going to approve that.
Jeff?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't particularly like signs off the property. Simply because, it leads to confusion sometimes, they'll see the sign, oh, this is where the gas station is, boom, they'll pull in and they'll get lost in the in the industrial park. Having happened to me one time, out of state, but but it can happen. This based on my own experience, I think it'd be better, to just have it on the property. But,
Okay. So you would be against,
yes, I'd be opposed, yes.
Ed?
Based on what Mr. Commissioner Everly was saying, I agree. I know, don't have a stroke.
Paramedics are here.
However, where I disagree is I see no problem with them advertising their gas prices embedded within the sign. As I was telling Commissioner Mouchet earlier, people will know very quickly where the Quick Trip station is. Plus, the area is very flat, very leveled, and was as I have recently driven by there, it has now been cleaned. So they'll be able to see that station. So I do not oppose the proposal for the foundation sign. And I wish the company would reconsider not putting a foundation sign on F. Because
So we're not, at the moment.
We're
just
not
discussing
dealing
the
with that, I
code,
realize.
Not a specific.
I'm
Sure.
just trying to play a game of cards here and, get another ace, but so that's where I stand, Mr. Chairman, on this issue. So I would not oppose the sign going in.
So you'd be okay with text amendments to the Lisbon zoning code regarding off-site signage,
Yes,
just on Lisbon Business Park East or in general?
in general.
Okay.
Because as Commissioner Everly pointed out, then you get into this whole, well, what if thing. So no, I don't. In the future, when we are a village or as we are, it should be clear to various corporate entities what they can expect.
All right. Brian?
I'm okay with having a text amendment for everything in general, to have off premises signs. I'd be okay with that.
You're doing the signs.
Okay,
Just the permit.
you have your majority. Any other questions?
We will look into it, bring something back when we get it in a good working order.
Okay. Item 6, planner report.
We do have a couple items that'll be coming for the Plan Commission for next month's meeting. We also are going to begin working on a shoreland and floodplain ordinance for the village because of the success of the incorporation. We've provided a proposal that was accepted by the board that has about a 3-month time frame on it to create a draft that we would then bring to this body to review and make a recommendation to the then village board to adopt.
Who reviews that? Just DNR?
DNR, correct, and then there's an application.
Incorporated areas.
We're, the floodplain, we're actually also, they do the submittal to the feds on our behalf for the, yeah, for the NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program. That's all I have.
Any questions for Warren?
No.
Bill, anything else?
I would assume, um, my favorite word, assume, we would make sure that our shoreline floodplain ordinance jive with the village of Sussex. And also, just have them check it to make sure we don't have any incongruities at the village limits. Because I saw that happen once and it was turned into a mess.
Yeah, we can certainly look at their, what they have on the books.
Yeah. Just so we don't have one of these.
You know, and that's
I'm
good
sure.
direction. If you have any other comments, for instance, I'll just give you an example. In the village of Summit, when they wrote theirs, this is a number of years ago, their direction to their planner was to have the greatest amount of flexibility and allowance of use as property as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was the direction, you know, and it is less restrictive, if that's the right phraseology,
Yes.
than the current county. You know, they were under county and they went, you know, Summit is much less restrictive. I don't know what we did in Vernon, and fortunately, both has a great deal of experience because they just did Waukesha's and Vernon.
Right.
There's much fewer requirements for villages and cities than there are.
But there's even options where you can be more restrictive or less restrictive. And so unless we have a sense otherwise, you'll want us to be as least restrictive as possible, as long as we're consistent with our current zoning and the neighboring communities. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. And does that just go to the village board or does that come to the plan commission?
And that will come to the plan commission.
Okay.
For a recommendation.
And the DNR.
It's amazing how fast you can get stuff on the old one.
DNR has to approve.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
It only takes about 3 years.
Anything else from anybody? All right, well then for the final time is the town of Lisbon, we have item 7, which is adjournment, which I will make that motion. Is there a second?
Second, the honor.
Nelson?
Oh,
No discussion, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed? We're out at 7:58.
Oh.